Today on History's Tech, we are continuing our look at tank classifications by looking at the medium tank. Now, the medium tank was developed to be a type of middle ground during early tank development to try to find some sort of a combination of both the light tank and the heavy tank, finding the best way to combine speed, armor, and armament into one package. But let's go ahead and look at the origins and history of the medium tank. Now, like so many other pieces of technology, World War I is the birthplace of the medium tank. Now, the development was basically during the stages of World War I, they were trying to find a improvement upon the heavy tanks, although they didn't call them a heavy tank at the time, but they were trying to find a better, more mobile tank that had better armament than that of what we would consider a light tank. And that's where they stumble upon the medium tank. Now, the earliest known medium tank would be that of the British medium Mark A. Whippet. And this would actually give birth to a series of British-made medium tanks, all based upon the Whippet's design, each being classified as the Mark B, C, and D models. Now, the true development of the medium tank did not come until the interwar years, and it is during this time that we see multiple nations begin developing the medium tank. The British would begin investing in their Vickers medium tanks Mark I and II. The Soviets would put a lot of interest in their T-28 multi-turret tank. The Soviets would run a parallel development of the T-28 with their BT series of tanks. And even the French would get in the game with their S-35. And the S-35 actually draws lines of what it truly is as a medium tank, so somebody may call it a medium tank, others may call it a cavalry tank. The Germans would develop their own medium tank, the Naubau-Fahrzeug, which is basically a precursor to the early Panzer tanks. And the United States would actually go through some very heavy tank development, creating a large series of prototype tanks before they finally settled on a medium tank design that they could get behind. And it's at this point, thanks to the British, we see the medium tank go in different directions. Several nations will continue to develop the medium tank as it is, but the British are actually going to create two new classes of tanks that are under the medium tank umbrella, and that's the cruiser tank and the infantry tank. Now, I've already done earlier videos on the cruiser and infantry tank, so I'm not going to really go into too much detail. Just know that a cruiser tank was designed to be mobile cavalry, a support vehicle for tanks as a light reconnaissance, sometimes a heavy reconnaissance vehicle, and the infantry tank was designed specifically to support infantry. Now, when we arrive past the interwar period and get into World War II is when we really see the medium tank take off. Multiple nations will begin developing it as the main use tank for their armies. We'll see the Panzer III and Panzer IVs become very popular for the Germans. The Soviets will begin developing their T-34 tank, arguably their most famous tank. The United States will begin developing a series of American medium tanks, starting with the M2, going into the M3, and of course the ever famous M4 Sherman. Now, the biggest development and changes for the medium tank is actually going to come during the Cold War. If World War II had taught tank developers anything, that while heavy and super heavy tanks were great during the war, they had a lot of limitations. And so there was a need for an improved medium tank that could fill in the role of the heavy and the medium tank while still maintaining mobility. So we're going to see a lot of nations try and evolve their medium tanks. The Soviet Union is going to start improving upon their T-34 and going through a series of tanks with the T-44, the T-54-55 series. And it's right about this point that the Soviet Union begins blurring the line between medium tank and main battle tank. And actually, the T-55 and the T-62 are considered by many to be a main battle tank. However, the Soviet Union did not officially declare them to be a main battle tank and instead looked at them as a medium tank. A similar transition is going to occur with the M26 Pershing, which was very popular at the end of World War II and eventually is going to give birth to the ever-famous Patton series of tanks, starting with the M46 Patton, the M47 Patton. And it's here, just like the Soviets, that we see that blending of the lines between a medium tank and a main battle tank with the M47. And eventually this is going to give way to the M48 Patton, which is the United States' first true main battle tank. And it's at this point we truly see the medium tank being replaced by the main battle tank, and not too many nations are going to even develop a medium tank anymore. Take, for example, the Germans with their Leopard 1 tank. Now, the Leopard 1 is a main battle tank, but at the time it was being created for the Germans in post-World War II Europe, it was actually a medium tank. But as it was developed and time progressed, and even the definition of the main battle tank became out there and became popular, it was realized that the Leopard 1 was no longer a medium tank, and it was part of this new first generation of main battle tanks. The evolution into the main battle tank signaled the end of the need for the medium tank, as most nations would eventually replace their stocks of medium tanks with main battle tanks. Now, the usefulness and utility of the medium tank can't be ignored. In fact, certain ones were still serving in countries around the world. The last Sherman was retired in 2018 in Paraguay. We still see the M47 being deployed in places like Iran. The M48 is utilized by about a half a dozen countries in the Middle East and Asia. The T-34 is actually still in service in multiple countries in Africa and Asia as well. So there's still countries utilizing it, even though it is considered obsolete and has been replaced by the main battle tank. But there you have it, a rather quick look at the development of the medium tank, a tank that came about literally as a means of progress to try and find a middle ground between the speed but light arms and armament of the light tank to match with the heavy arms and armament but low speed of a heavy tank, and try to develop some sort of a unique tank that could combine both. And it was a very successful design. So successful, it would eventually be improved upon to the point where an entire new generation tanks, the main battle tank, would be born. But that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you on the next one.